The Dragon Knights do not know the same skills as the Akaviri Dragon Guard. They know an Akaviri martial art.
Okay.
Specifically.
Okay, so here I'm gonna pause discussion there for a second. I just started the cast recording. It wouldn't be a casual Lorecast in the Dream Sleeve if someone didn't have alcohol. So
yeah, I have to leave soon.
Here's to you. You have to what?
I have to leave soon and head to work.
Stop.
He said that like yesterday.
He's in New Zealand, dude.
No
work.
Stop working.
Actually,
stop supporting yourself. Be here with us.
Oh, and what is go homeless? Join Lorecast from fucking going into McDonald's and...
No, see, here's the thing. If he suddenly stops working and goes homeless, then he'll never be able to do another Lorecast again.
That's not true.
This is from the guy that postponed the Lorecast because he had work-related shit to do.
Who, me? No, I didn't have work-related shit to do. My mom wanted to take Santa pictures while my little brother was still in town.
That sounds like work to me.
Were you Santa?
No. He leaves first thing in the morning. We were going to do it tomorrow with my wife, but he wants to leave as soon as possible and get the fuck out of Dodge because he hates this town. And so we were like, okay.
It was so funny that you had to go floss your kid's teeth. Like, I just think it's hilarious. Like,
yeah,
I don't know for how long that you have a child.
He's fucking 7 years old and he's started doing it himself.
You need to give him like little floss pick things and then.
Yeah, that's what we do. I gotta do it, but he can't get into like his molars are too hard and he hurts himself. I'm like,
you just have to show.
I'll do it.
So I have a question.
Okay, shoot. Is it a lore question?
That says maybe. Ask.
Okay, do it anyway.
Okay. I'm 17. When am I gonna grow a beard?
Oh, I'm not
eventually.
Oh my god.
Do you have a beard in your nethers?
Yes. Fuck yeah, giant.
I've been the baby in the community for like 6 years now. Oh my god, this feels great.
What are you like fucking 30 and not 50?
I'm about to turn 19. I'm finally not the baby.
Okay, so we have a couple new folks. We have Alex, we have Solstice, we have Chuck. Do any of you three in particular have any lore-related questions that we might be able to discuss? I like to try and keep these.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because this was brought up a couple of weeks ago when my friend Sam said this, and he could never get an answer from the people he was talking with. Supposedly, Merun's Dagon is Magnus.
Yes.
Please explain.
Lig. So that has to do with a connection between. So if you read the Seven Fights of Aldudaga, there's the Demon Leaper King, and he leaps from Kalpa to Kalpa, right? We can already make a connection there, leaping out of a Kalpa, like Magnus leaping out of Mundus, leaving the sun in its wake, right? And then we've got, I know Hanote, so City Face from the sermons is involved in there somehow. Like, we get into like some Lig shit, and I don't really know Lig all that well. Like, the two guys who do it, they don't ever tell anyone. They just make obscure references and then laugh with each other. Like, it's really frustrating.
Really not wrong.
Yeah, no, it's like trying to get them to.
It's been like that for years though at this point.
Yeah, trying to get them to give us a layman's description. It ain't gonna happen. So I do know, according to and they've explained it before, like, hey, here's some connections, but it's been a couple years, so I don't know off the top of my head, but it has to do.
Does anyone have like a document of that? Because I remember in the past people would take notes and stuff.
I don't know.
I've got
I'll have to ask around.
I've got a few things.
Yeah, Todd, if you've got a link.
Well, I've got a few things, but none of it connects to Hanote or Lig. It's just like stuff that references this in general. There's the 7 Fights of the Aldudaga, which that I'm just pulling up right now because it's the 7 fights.
Is it of the Aldudaga?
7 Fights of the Aldudaga, yeah.
Okay, yes, it is.
The 7 fights, but I think like the exact link is.
I always read it over that second V, so I thought that's why I thought Aldudaga was a specific person or an entity.
I'm throwing them up here in the little Google chat.
7 Fights of Aldudaga, so it sounded like a name, but it's the Aldudaga. So that's
And I found a reference to City Face in the sermons. It's Sermon 30. I'm posting the link here.
City Face.
Hanote's also in there.
Yeah, City Face is one of, according to Vec, is one of Vec's children with Molag Bal. And
where is it?
There's something to do with like he knows what he was and he wasn't a monster inside or whatever. And then there's a whole thing about how the Magna Gi like used a razor to shape Hanote.
He was what it was Hanote could move between things by some weird mechanism that allowed him to do so, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then when he moved sideways is one time too many, the grabbers reached up and grabbed him and pulled him into their specific realm and used the most scarce resource of Oblivion, which is hope, to forge him into their god thing in the image of Vivek, but imperfect, which they called City Face.
And
there's
hope is one of the spheres of
I have to go. Sorry.
All right.
Fun at work.
Well, then again, there's on the note of the hope thing, there's also a mention in, I believe it's commentary 3 on the Mysterium Xerxes. It's either 3 or 4, where Dagon is pulled into oblivion by all the Magna Gi, who then take it to him and make him a razor using the scarcest resource of oblivion, which is hope.
So the Magna Gi are the grabbers.
Something like that. I think it's specifically certain ones because of how the Magna Gi pantheon works. Like, that is a clusterfuck.
Yeah,
Magna Gi is weird.
Also, for whoever asked this, I threw up one of the harder to find things, which is Amulet, who put her in the amulet, where Kirkbride actually does at a point go, yes, Dagon is Akatosh, is Lorcan, and there is a connection there that no one is really getting for some reason.
Thank you.
Let me get the commentary one here.
I mean, I know that doesn't really answer your question, but does that answer your question?
It doesn't answer anyone's questions. So
well,
party.
you kind of just said the answer yourself.
There is another thing, and this admittedly, I think the person who called Magnar leaps like a salmon, I think that was just a Reddit post. But there is a very direct reference to Mehrunes Dagon surviving the Kapalik shifts through Salmon Leap in the 7 fights of the Aldudaga, which I think it is an amulet where it gets explained a little bit that Dagon is a fallen champion of Aka who was tricked by someone else into doing something. Which, if we go back to the Greedy Man, which is Hermaeus Mora, I can get all the links to make this argument. But the Greedy Man as Mora, as the leftover shards of Aka, as we learned from the on-release Nordic creation myth, right? There's your diametric opposing forces of the two Aka spirits that tricked Dagon and turned him into Dagon. Alduin versus Mora, and then along with that, because in the Salmon Leap argument, he makes note of him bearing a connection to the ineffable ocean that would give him no more answers than it would them, though he would try to take it as he always did, which is to say, in red.
So I should point out that all of these theories about Magnus are theories, and if you don't like them, you can throw them out. I especially have difficulty believing anything that comes from Vivek. Vivek is like the ultimate unreliable narrator.
I counterpoint you with the Khajiit are the best liars, so...
Well, that's a fair point.
Well, to be fair, I'd have to agree with you that Vivek is a known liar, because he has claimed in the past that he's the one who drove the Akaviri away. And then just about everyone in the Ebonheart Pact is saying, no, it was the forces of Argonians, Nords, and Dunmer who drove them away.
Right.
Then we get into alternate timeline shenanigans, so...
Oh boy, the best kind of shenanigans.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of Magnus being Mehrunes Dagon. There's, in one of the IRC chats, It's the one where MK talks about the universe or the multiverse or whatever you want to call it being a song, where he talks about that Magnus is like, I'm sorry I left, but the Magda
I know what you're talking about.
Take the song of creation back to him.
Yeah.
And so he still cares, he still listens. It's a very different kind of view of Magnus than if you think of Magnus as the Leaper Demon King, and I kind of prefer the Magnus,
Benevolent.
Well, hold on.
Magnus is just kind of his own
Magnus.
separate thing.
Hold on. With that train of
Somewhat
thought, though, with that train of thought, though, right? Consider this: Leaper Demon King came back to grab parts of the land that couldn't be undone, and then he would leave. And then he gets caught by Alduin, who condemns him for taking parts of the land, parts of the song,
Do you even know what
and
would
hiding
happen?
them away so they wouldn't be destroyed.
Do you even know what would happen if? What does he say? If I ate
You
too much? Or something like that?
Where is it? I know exactly what you're quoting because you're leaving out the part that I love, which is Alduin actually cussing.
Yeah.
You stupid little fucker. Do you even know what would happen if that happened? My dying and being unable to eat and the Culpa left run forever?
It's called Coda.
Oh, I think that's exactly what would happen.
No, that really is it. That's true.
Well, what Michael said earlier, and for you new cats, I can't stress this enough. My catchphrase has come to be "lore is what you make of it."
Yeah.
And so, in the Tellmore Independent Press, Michael wrote a fantastic opinion article about why lore is subjective. And I wrote a follow-up piece a couple months later that I didn't ever end up actually publishing in an issue, but it's still on the Tellmore's website. And think of the lore, at least for your own interpretation. Think of it like you walk into a grocery store, and everything on the shelves is another little smidgen of lore. You can grab and pick and take whatever you want and put it in your basket. You buy it and you leave. That is your interpretation. If you don't like a part, you say, I think I'm going to leave that on the shelf. That is your prerogative. It's your shopping cart, not Steve's, not Greg's, not Tiffany's. They can go fuck themselves. They can get whatever they want.
Until it kills somebody, then you're fine. It's all you.
Speaking of the Tellmore Independent, did you get the piece I sent you on?
I believe I did. Let me. I'll tab here out of
Dwemer dialects.
Yes, I did get that. I just haven't published it on the website yet.
Cool. Does anyone else like how the Alien, the Dwemer, and the Falmer all effectively have the same writing script? It's just kind of different depending on the culture. Like the Dwemer writing script is very direct and very much just straight lines as minimum as possible. Meanwhile, the Falmer writing script is like super elaborate.
I have to think about that. Let me go back. Last thing about the whole subjective lore and all that kind of stuff. There is a great quote by Miles Davis. And
Miles Davis.
The thing to remember is that Miles Davis went to Juilliard. Am I right with that?
Yeah.
Juilliard?
You're correct.
Yeah.
And he said, go learn the music theory, learn all of it, and then forget that shit.
Right.
And this is kind of my approach to lore. Learn everything and then decide for yourself. And it's jazz, man. It's all jazz.
Do you like jazz?
Are you kidding? I just went to a jazz festival in Cape May, New Jersey. It was glorious.
Someone just asked Michael if he likes music. The short answer is yes.
Yes.
It's a meme.
It's just yes.
It's a meme. Yeah, no, I understand completely, and that's part of it. Like earlier, we were having this discussion. I mean, I don't know if we've mentioned it all while I was gone, but the vampire thing. You can take the different perspectives on that. And I mean, I've been part of this part of the community for probably like 4 or 5 years, and I mean, we still argue with Ziegler about cats being myrrh. But we enjoy it. We enjoy it. We have a good time.
We did.
Well, and I think because we have the ability to be mature about it, like Yeah, we disagreed. So what? I don't. I'm over it now. So like,
And
it's just
there
a
are a
conversation.
lot of times that I say stuff, especially when I start talking about the Khajiit, that like I say stuff that I don't even really believe. I just say it to annoy Todd. I mean, no, what I mean, what I
Welcome
meant
to
to
the
say
party.
was,
Don't we all do that sometimes, though?
yes, we do, because I love Todd. Todd's my bro.
occasion.
He's my tail brother.
Toddles. In case this is not already out on the internet, this is Toddles.
Oh,
I'm busy with my conspiracy theories about you stupid cat people.
We got Toddles. we got Shickles. I'd really love to get
Okay,
Shickles around
I'm
here.
calling you from now on Toddles.
You never will.
hold
I've been
on,
calling
hold
him Toddles for years.
on. We have to spin this back to the Khajiit for a minute, and we're
Okay.
live
Yes.
now. So hold on. The Khajiit are liars. Everything they're saying is a lie. Just don't interrupt me yet. Everything they're saying is a lie, right? I want you to operate off this basic principle. Now ask yourself, why do they care so much about the moons? What do the moons and their motions specifically control that would allow them to, quote, keep the anger of Anur away?
Anal beads.
No.
The moon in the tarot cards is traditionally a card about illusions and lies, deception.
Now, here's the thing, right? Water is memory.
Yes.
The moons control the tides. They're lying to you and using the moons to make God think they're right.
Holy shit.
I
That's
like
dope.
that.
The whole Khajiit are not Mer, that's a lie. Don't believe it. The whole our pantheon isn't actually part of your pantheon. We know more than you
But
and
if-
just do this
But
to
if the
interject things.
Godhead believes it, that makes it a truth.
But not the majority of the Godhead believes it. Only the
No, I mean,
Khajiit are firmly rooted in their belief.
I think you can say that about anything mythopoetic, honestly. Because I mean, not everyone is a Breton, for example. I think Shor or Shior is the bad man is a thing. They may worship Shor instead, or Sheogorath instead of either one of those.
But the
But
Khajiit pantheon is very distinctly Khajiit. And like I always say, every time I get into an argument about the Khajiit, it eventually falls to we're at either A, the Khajiit are the only ones who know what the fuck they're talking about, and the Khajiit are right, or B, the Khajiit are full of shit. And the Khajiit themselves admit that the Khajiit have to be the best liars to conquer Nurni.
It's not to conquer Narni. So my whole response to this is, okay, yeah, the Khajiit are the best liars. Why are they the best liars? Give me a second to pull up on Nissi. And I'll give you the actual quote. And this is... Okay, give me a second. I'll pull up the
Hold on. I'll pull it up too, and I'll give you the actual quote before Michael interpretation.
I can twist your words.
Okay.
Before you know, oh, well, the Khajiit forgive Lorechat. It's not just Nurni. The Khajiit forgive Lorechat.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
It's just
And
Nurni. Read your quote.
Todd. Okay. And Fatime said, the Khajiit must be the best deceivers, for they must always hide their nature from the children of Anur. Now, that only makes sense if you go back and read the entire document, which I'm not going to make you do. There's a lot going on there. And really, if you haven't, Todd, I know you probably haven't because it's long and ergo impossible, but go watch the Khajiit Lorecast that we did with Select Lorecast. I break down this book.
May I be a dick for a minute?
Like you need my permission?
Well, no, I'm asking because this is going to be more than just you who's going to get offended, Michael.
Oh, I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say.
Are you going to renounce Thras as the biggest?
No, I'm going to say that the problem with the Lorecast, no matter how good a tale you want to spin in the Lorecast, no one fundamentally disagrees with each other. It's a lot of just nodding and going, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. So, any argument you would make based in the Lorecast, Michael, I've already heard because I've argued it to you before. Well, I've argued with you about it before. You know what I mean?
I put it a little differently in a few points. I really spent a lot of time on coming up with my dissertation on the Khajiit. But because really that first Lorecast really is just basically me pontificating. It's kind of sad. But
which Lorecast?
The first Khajiit Lorecast.
Oh, okay.
Also, just because you keep saying the Khajiit forgive Lorcaj, but Nirni soon forgave Lorcaj for Nirni could make children.
Yeah.
No. Let me finish. And then a little further up, the Khajiit must be the best survivors, for Nirni will be jealous, and she will make the sands harsh and the forest unforgiving, and the Khajiit will always be hungry and at war with Nirni.
Yeah.
Only Nirni forgives Lorcaj, not the Khajiit. By your own book. Because the Khajiit are fundamentally opposed to Nirni, because Nirni is jealous of Azura.
Right. Hang on. Yeah, I think I talk about that in the Lorecast. I'd have to break them.
I know you talked about it in the Lorecast. I was there for like the first 30 minutes, then I had to go to a trial from a guild in ESO, and then I had to go to work, and I was on like 2 hours of sleep.
What is sleep?
I don't know.
I was fucking useless that entire Lorecast.
It's when you go temporarily visit Vermina, and you hope that she's gonna be like the nice aunt who makes you cookies. And not the evil aunt who makes you meet her cat.
I know what that sleep thing is now. I remember that. It's when you get that little notification that says you must rest and meditate on what you have learned, and then you get more
That's it.
Yeah.
Todd, obviously OG Morrowind player.
Obviously.
That's in Oblivion, dude.
Yeah.
That was in I think that was in like everything after Arena. Arena, you just leveled up. I never really played Arena long.
It was in everything after Arena, and then it just stopped being in Skyrim.
Fun fact. With Arena, I made it to the first bed I could sleep in, and then got butchered by a goblin in my sleep.
Nice.
That's crazy.
Fun times. I love this game.
That's just how it is on this bitch of a nerd.
And then in Daggerfall, I made it all the way to the first city, joined the Fighters Guild, went on my first quest, and then like fell in a hole and got attacked by a level 14 Lamia at level 2 and died.
Yeah, my only thing with like Daggerfall is the dungeons are way too fucking complicated.
I was looking for a werewolf and I found a Lamia.
I got lost in like the beginning dungeon. I didn't know what the exit looked like.
It took me 6 hours to get out of that place. It was hell.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was legit like 3-4 different zones, and they kind of spiraled back in on each other. And I was just like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I what is this place? This place sucks.
I just had a cat leap across the floor as if to grab my foot, and then decide at the last second not to grab my foot. And then she landed, and I was like, no, I meant to do that. And then kind of walked off shaking her butt like she was cool.
Cats are liars.
I meant to do that. Nobody gets my movie references. It's okay.
What was your movie reference? Sorry, my wife was...
I want to say it was a Pirates of the Caribbean reference, but I'm not sure.
Herman, come on, people.
Yeah, see. After the whole masturbating in a movie theater thing, like...
Yeah, no.
Wait, wasn't it a porno theater?
I guess, which...
What are you
doesn't make it
talking about?
better.
I mean, it makes it moderately better because that's the point of it.
Yeah, but no.
I mean, I guess, what are you supposed to do in one of those theaters? Like, oh yes, the cinematography is fantastic. Like,
You hold it till you get home, Andrew.
that sounds like a lot of work.
Noted.
What the hell are we even talking about anymore?
All right, I have
something
something I want to talk about that I've learned from ESO.
Clearly, we're talking about the sermons of Vivek, but moving on from that.
Hold on. There was something about ESO that was mentioned.
I said I've learned something from ESO that I find really interesting, and I want to bring it up here because I want to hear other people's thoughts on it who are smarter than I am in this. So,
count me out.
prior to now, we've known that the Khajiit are super obsessed with the moons and, all that. So that's very well established. And so I go to Oridon in the Somerset Isles, and all these Altmer are making references every 15 minutes to the stars. And then I go on UESP, and I start finding out that apparently there's this sect of Argonians called the Sunblessed or something or other. I don't know. It just strikes me as really interesting that you've got 3 different races, all pretty different from each other.
Who all have something big with astrology.
Yeah, and they're all very connected to either sun, moon, or stars.
I
That's
mean,
kind of dope.
it's not that surprising.
It is to me.
The sun is Magnus. The stars are the Magnae.
They never call it Magnus, the Argonians do, that I've read.
Well, that's because they're the Argonians, but the sun is Magnus.
To be fair, they're also lizards, and it's very pleasant to sleep in sunlight.
They're also a race of men, but that's just ESO making my life miserable.
What?
Yes, they're a race of men.
No, culturally.
No, they are literally a race. Okay. The ideology thing, right? Because here's the part where it's going to get a little fucky for Michael. You do know what the symbol of the cat is in Tess mythos, right?
Playful?
Huh?
What?
The serpent. You know what the serpent is metaphorically and mythologically in Tess, right?
It depends on the mythology, but yeah.
Oh my god, no it doesn't. It's a common. Point being, the cat is the tiger. The tiger is the dragon. This is a thing. What is
so
the dragon is a Ka. A Ka is Anu. Mur are the descendants of the old Elenafe, which herald under the camp and banner of Aka and Oriel, the dragon. Yes. The Khajiit are literally wearing Murish ideology as their skin. Conversely, the Argonians, not as lizards, but as crappily made snakes, are wearing Manish ideology as their skin. Mm-hmm. This is apparent when we read Children of the Root, in the fact that the Hist, which made them, the Roots, are directly subservient to the shadow of the great serpent Akakota. They are
the Manish ideology. It doesn't make them men.
Nah.
It makes them men.
Nah.
It makes them related.
We are men. Manly men.
Tights.
If you wear the most extreme version of the ideology, you are part of the ideology. If all the races are just defined by ideology, then congratulations, it falls along this schism.
Okay, so here's alright, so
I'll agree they're related. I wouldn't go so far as to call them men.
Would you agree the Seasi are men?
I don't know. We don't ever see from
the Seishi.
We don't ever.
I actually have a bit of a theory on the Seishi. If you guys would like to hear it.
Hold on.
I promise not to yell too much.
I will not profess as to anything that the Seishi are because we do not ever see from Jubal's perspective.
They aren't from Jubal's perspective.
And that's where we disagree.
No, it's not where we disagree. It's where you need to go read the creation myth. Literally, the metaphor for their ideology is their imago. It comes from their parent.
Where did the creation myth come from? Was it created in Tamriel by Tamrielic people?
We had this argument.
Oh, we didn't. I didn't
yes,
know
we did.
I didn't know they had a creation myth. So.
No, we did. We had this argument months ago. You forgot.
Okay.
We do this all the time.
Anything that has to do with the safety is just interpreted by Anu and isn't necessarily true objectively.
Except that
Okay.
Akavir comes from
Can
Jubal.
I pull it back a minute? Can I pull it back? So let me pull it back. Okay. Here's the trick. Okay, so
something subjective lore. You're both right. Something gur.
Close, but not quite. So here's the trick. So in Tamriel, we have a monomyth. That is this one idea of how everything came about.
Yes.
But there are variants. There are riffs that play off of it and are a little bit different. For instance, the Red Guard myth plays off of both the Manish and Murish visions, not really attributing or really adhering to either one, but kind of combining them. So the Red Guards are kind of weird. The Khajiit have a very different view. And then the Argonians, I don't know. That one I still need to chew on that one. They're the Argonians. The trick is that they all have similar symbols, but the symbols sometimes mean different things depending on which myth it is and who's writing it. In Omnisci, the moons are one thing, right? But if you read Moon Bishop Hanal, it's a little bit different. It's just, so to say that, I guess what I'm trying to say is that to try to nail down that one symbol means one thing in all cultures just doesn't work in Tamriel.
It does.
It doesn't.
Michael, what do the Red Guards think the serpent is?
I don't know Red Guard lore.
The Red Guards think the serpent is death. What do the Nords think the serpent is?
I was gonna say, isn't Sadakal basically
not Sadakal? Sep is the serpent.
Right.
Wait, then what was Sadakal?
Sadakal is everything. Sep is the serpent. Sep is death. Death brought by a deception. To the Nords, the serpent is death. It is mortality. It is what binds them. To the Altmer, the serpent is deception. To the Argonians, the serpent originates as death, but becomes change.
Can I just stop you there for a second? Because I just had a thought and I want to get it before it fades away. So in your idea there, Sep from the viewpoint of the Red Guards sounds to me analogous to Sithis. But the serpent to the Altmer sounds to me analogous to Lorcan. And yeah, there's connections there, but they mean different things.
No, Michael, it's not.
Sorry, I'm looking at the UASP here, and it says that Sep the Snake is the Yokudan version of Lorcan, so...
I know.
It's the Yokudan version of Lorcan, which originates from Tall Papa, which is the Yokudan version of Sithis, which is actually the Void Ghost, which is the thing hiding in the Serpent, which has the Unstars, which the Serpent spits back up from the Void into Tamriel, which what the Serpent spit up was the roots, which are the Hist.
And nobody understands what you just said, except for, probably me and Andrew. It's
a matter of this is all interconnected.
It's connected.
And these things, no, let me finish.
Go ahead.
And these symbols that you say are different, you're only thinking they're different because you don't want to see where they connect. Like right now, you just said Sep is more analogous to Sithis, but here the serpent is more analogous to Lorcan.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not, because of what Sep does. And Sep comes from Sithis, which we see when Tall Papa makes Sithis. Not Sithis. When Tall Papa makes Sep.
Yeah, I can't really comment on that. I don't know Red Guard lore that well. I can't really say anything about that.
Okay, now I am just going to be a dick. This is my point. You're sitting here saying that you can't connect these symbols, yet you yourself are admitting you don't know what the symbols mean to certain cultures. I'm sitting here saying that I look at the symbols only, and I've been obsessing with the symbols for ages. I know what they mean across all the cultures, and it is common. You just have to look at all of it in depth.
So, can I move to have, a 101 version of the Lorecast sometimes because I cannot engage with what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We fell into some deep lore and it got funky.
What's going on here? Short version. Symbols that we see, things like the serpent, right? These actually do, if you want to spend, you know, months and months or however long it takes for it to all start clicking in your head, just analyzing all these different things and seeing how it fits together, there start to be things that fit together. This is why I say, for example, the Khajiit are Myrrh. Because...
Okay, wait. There's one symbol that I was chasing a while back that I couldn't figure out if it's all unified, but what is skin in your experience in the lore?
Ideology.
Yeah, it's literally the skin that they have. It's an ideological thing. It stems from the dawn. I can't find the source for that. I don't know where Kurt said it.
Think of it like wearing your heart on your sleeve, except instead of your heart, it's your worldview.
Because there's a couple of references to shedding your skin and it becoming self-aware in a few places.
Yeah, which there's because skin. I mean, there's ideology. There's the world skins, which are...
You're talking specifically from creation myths, where the unified, like Saktakal or Akakota, sheds a skin, and then the skin gains self-awareness.
Mm.
Right?
Right.
It's, how to put it, it's a counterbalance to what is. Like, if we go back to 8 Aedra, Eat the Dreamer. I know, oh my god, Todd's bringing that up again. It all starts when Aka says, I am, and then Lorcan, or whatever the opposing proper sphere is, says, I am not. The two immediately begin fighting, and from the point of I am and I am not, we get the concept of maybe, the unified whole, the Arbus. As opposed to maybe, which is to say everything, we have maybe not, which is to say nothing. The opposite of the Arbus is Sithis, or the void. Not like the void of oblivion, but the void of literal nothing. That is the skin that they shed. It's that dual concept cast aside. It is I am and I am not, but interpreted differently, which is the negative of the positive.
Let me say that skin does not mean the same thing in both of those situations. Because I don't see how that connects to ideology.
Maybe in the sense that the shedding of skin, because again, this whole idea is that the universe subgradiates, and as it subgradiates, kind of the conflict changes a little bit and becomes more fine-tuned. And so the shedding of a skin is saying, okay, well, let's take it to a different level. So instead of I am not, it's maybe not, which is maybe not terribly helpful in terms of logic, but it is always these two forces that are diametrically opposed, and you see it on every gradient. You saw it in the original thing with Anu and Padme, and then Anu and Sithis, Akatosh and Lorcan, all the way down to Tullius.
If I can interject there just a second, because this is no, this is just one of the fun things. The Children's Anuad is horribly simplified, and we shouldn't actually use that to say it starts with Anu and Padme.
That we know of.
No. It doesn't start with them. It starts with Aka and Lorcan, or whatever you want to call them. It starts with I am and I am not. They combine to the maybe, which is above both of them. That then becomes maybe, maybe not. And then from there, it gets lowered again. It starts like the whole argument of, well, Sithis makes Lorcan or Anuiel makes Aka. No. Those two combined make one part of that, and then the other part naturally arises as the opposite. In that example, Aka and Lorcan make Anuiel, which is everything, And Sithis naturally arises as the direct opposite of that, which is nothing. They gradiate up once. It takes two. There's no right lesson learned alone. It takes two. And then from there, they slowly gradiate back down. That's one of those weird tricks to this stuff. Like Sacticol, right? Sacticol itself is not actually a being. It is just the skin. The snake is sacked. Its stomach is a Kel. It's not until it's dead that it's called Sacticol. And then at that point, it sheds the skin and it's sacked again. The same for Atac Coda, which is Atac, the Great Root, and the Serpent Coda, who then become Atac Coda as they just coil around each other and start fighting. Which again, the ruling king, which is the two twins split in the womb by the primordial cry of I am versus I am not, that get bound together in this two-headed, drooling, lobotomized monstrosity. The initial gradient goes up one, then it all goes down. That's one of those things we're just not getting. Also, fun fact from the Children's Anuad, time, capital T, starts when Anu and Padme recognize each other. Not whenever, like, the thing that we would call Akatosh exists before anything else, including Mundus. Like, not Mundus. In this sense, Arbus. Like, in what should be their world, it exists. Which doesn't make
before
sense.
The test stream. Before the test stream.
It doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be there like that. But it is.
Yeah, I mean, this is, Todd, we've gone into the deep lore, and I don't think we're supposed to go into the deep lore. But we're talking about primordial time as opposed to Anu's dream of time. But let's this is all deep lore stuff. This is stuff that is like everybody's staring at us with eyes that are saying I could be playing the ET video game. I mean,
what I'm saying is it's only deep lore stuff because everyone wants to make all the symbols different, but they're not. That's the trick. That's the lie. These aren't as different as everyone wants them to be. The fact that it's capital T time in this sentence, because it is in the middle of the sentence. I can pull it up right now.
No, I read it.
Well, I mean, for everyone else, it's in the middle of the sentence, not the beginning of the sentence. Otherwise, I would have never considered this.
Let's get away from that for now.
Like it,
because I agree with Michael. We need to lead up to that. That's you don't start with Hiroshima. You end with it.
Yeah.
We've been here for what, an hour now?
Yeah. An hour is not a good lead-in time. So what do you want to know about? Is it just Solstice? Do we still have?
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah, I'm here.
Max here too.
Solstice, Mac, and Chuck are still with us.
Yeah, sorry about that. I've just been quiet while I listened to all of this.
No fear.
So if I could get an answer to my original question about the Altmer, are they so fixated on the stars because it's sort of that's what they wish the other ancestors had done? Realized the trick and said, "Oh hell no," and left.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I can kind of see that.
You said the magic word, and we promised no tricks.
It's what they wish they could do, because Oriel ascended through the sun, hence his connection to the sun. His ascension into divinity was to leave through the sun. He followed Magnus. They want to do the same.
They want to escape. To them, Nirn is a prison.
I knew that, but
the stars escaped. So it could be the thing. The thing to remember with the Altmer is that they practice a form of ancestor worship, and this gets really, really funky. No, let's not. It gets really funky. But it's if at its base level, it's let's do what the ancestors did to ascend and escape this prison at its very basic level. So that's
their whole thing
probably.
I'm gonna throw a fucking monkey wrench in this in a minute, but
please
continue.
don't.
The whole thing with the Altmer, them trying to reach godhood, isn't their concept of reaching godhood the whole thought of you reach godhood through becoming perfect? Like you
the praxis thing, yeah.
Like you achieve perfection and ascend to godhood.
I don't think that's related to divinity.
Okay.
Praxis is more like the Japanese ikigai, like it's full life fulfillment.
Okay.
You do something that fulfills your purpose and benefits society, and it's enjoyable, and all of these things that make it overall beneficial to win, 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 win for everybody. That you do this thing, and that's kind of how I have interpreted praxis to work. But as far as their idea of divinity, I mean, if the Thalmor are any indication, I mean, their whole thing, at least for the Thalmor, and the Thalmor are not all Altmer.
That is correct. I want to say that I think like half of Alinor hates the Thalmor of the Fourth Era.
Yeah. The Thalmor, and I mean, we've gone over this in the selectives, and we tried to avoid this comparison, but they're effectively the Nazi Party of Germany. Like they're hyper political, and they have this really far-flung ideology, and everyone's like, oh, they're crazy, but then they take over and they're like, oh shit, this actually happened.
All right.
So there's a very, very clean comparison to be made there. Stop.
I kind of want to hear the because
fine, Todd, go.
Okay. That's not a clean comparison. By the devs' own words, as I was ranting before we went live. It's not a clean comparison because of what drives them. Also, I'd make arguments that, ESO kind of fucked with things, but it's not a clean comparison because what drives the Thalmor at their core is a theocratic belief. Not a scientific one, not some claim of superiority. It all comes from theocratic belief.
Yeah, I would say just call it a similar comparison. It's not exact, but it can give you a good baseline idea.
I never said it was exact. I said it was clean. You can create. You can see the parallel there. It doesn't have to be perfect for there to be a similarity.
Maybe think of it as
their end goals are irrelevant. The fact is they operate the same way.
It's a simile, not a metaphor.
Yeah. They are like the Nazis. They are not Nazis.
Right.
I bring it up solely because, again, devs have said they hate that analogy. They hate that analogy because it underscores what they actually were trying to do.
Yeah,
that's why.
And the analogy isn't
it's a bad analogy.
The analogy isn't meant to point out what they do. It's meant to point out how they operate.
It's not even how they operate. It is a theocratic operation.
You're still talking about their end goal. I'm not talking about the end goal.
No, I'm not talking about their end goal. Why do they hate men? Because men are the children of Lorcan. The existence of men continues to deny them their...
Part of the reason I hate the Nazi comparison is that I'm Jewish. So for me, it's kind of a very personal thing, for that comparison to be drawn. Nothing the elves are doing is of the same nature as the Nazis, just from where I'm sitting.
And I'm only talking about how they have moved to gain power. That's the only reason for the analogy.
Could you say a better comparison would be the Thalmor and the Spanish Inquisition?
Yes, that was literally the fucking thing that was pointed out by the devs.
Yeah, there we go.
No one expects that, though.
Nobody expects it. That's right. I got that reference.
I know less about that period of history. My specialty is American history, and so the Second World War factors into that. So that's the first place that my mind goes. I teach American history. That's
Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects them. Yada yada yada. Heresy. And then put them on the rack.
Yeah. Anyway, we were talking
So how do full jumps work?
Can
It's actually a fun discussion.
Can I finish talking about the Altmer first?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Because I was trying to explain that, and then we got off on Nazis. But so at.
I'm sorry.
No, so the Thalmor's whole thing is they want to remove men so that they can reclaim their birthright, as it were, of returning to the untime of before
the Dawn era.
The Dawn era. Because in the Dawn they are timeless, they are perfect, they are immortal in that way, whereas men see that timeless space as frozen and cold and
the Dawn era is much more fun.
Yeah,
who wants non-linear time is great. I mean, in Clavicus Vile's own words, you could die before you're even born.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
I think about that scene in The Hobbit, the first one, in the movie where who is that? One of the dwarves is talking to Ciriel or whatever her name is, and she's talking Toriel, yeah, and she thinks all light is sacred, and we favor the stars the most, and the dwarf, whichever one he is, he says, "No, I always thought Keely,
yeah.
Keely.
I always thought it was a cold light, remote and far away.
I always thought it was a cold light, very far away. That I think kind of illustrates this dichotomy here. The elves see that as pure.
Yeah, it's just a matter of perspective.
Yeah, whereas the men, if we're looking at like Atmora, for example, it's frozen, it's cold, it's inhospitable. You cannot do anything with that. And so yeah, it's just a difference in that perspective. And because men have that perspective, then they need to be gotten rid of, because their very presence in the Kalpic cycle, in the Arbus, will always result in Mundus being formed and that divinity taken away from the Elnathay or the Aldmer or the Altmer. And that's,
where do the other elven races fit into the Thalmor's plans here? The Bosmer, Malmer, etc.
I would say they kind of don't fit, just sort of because at least if you guys remember what I said about an hour ago, I think I had brought up the whole concept of they want to get rid of Akatos so they can control the dragon and go back to the Dawn era. But there aren't really any Mer.
Sorry, I burped.
I think there aren't really any Mer who worship Akatosh. So
the aliens, right?
The aliens are more. I mean,
the aliens are way more about Daedra worship.
No. The aliens worshipped. They actually worshipped Oriel. If you look at their statues, they have statues of Oriel and Cyrodiil.
Well, I think it's by the city state for aliens.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah,
like
that's
every city state had a patron god, essentially.
You had the Velothi, who all just collectively sort of worshipped
the Daedra.
Not all of them, just 3 of them. Mephala, Uith, and Azura.
Mm-hmm.
But then you had the aliens, where just by the various groups, they all kind of had their own worship, and they were all casting their own deals to various Daedra. That's why you can have some aliens who worship Meridia, but then you have other ones who worship Molag Bal, other ones who probably worship Periites.
Yeah, we're on the same.
However weird Periite worship can be.
I'm gonna make one small interjection there. It's not that they worshipped Daedra specifically; it's that they each worshipped something unique. Like Daedra specifically. Since you mentioned Meridia, there was a city that did not worship Meridia, but married Nununda, which was the Maganegi unbound, super powerful version of Meridia.
Yeah, which is like the leg goddess or something.
Oh,
more leg stuff. It's
like this is about to dive more into Wait.
She holds.
Okay, Andrew, you were saying about how the other races besides humans factor into the Thalmor plans.
I mean, I imagine because Aldmer exists, but Aldmeris does not. And Aldmer are basically the unified Mer. So,
Yes.
I mean, the way I kind of envision
as
it,
it were.
and this is kind of baseless. So, I mean, this is just kind of how I've interpreted it. They don't intend to win this Kalpa. They intend to win in the following Kalpas by removing men entirely. Right? They remove the possibility of men ever happening again. So then come the next Kalpa, all the Mer are together again. They start back at square one, and they're together. So the other races really don't matter. It's the dichotomy between man and Mer that really blurry. Stop it. It's the dichotomy that really matters. And so I imagine that maybe Red Guards, I mean, what happens to them? Because they have almost more of a Marish ideology than...
Didn't the Red Guards jump from the previous Amaranth rather than the previous Kalpa? Like, I thought there was something I was told where it was effectively that Red Guards are not from Anu's dream. They were the people Anu lived with.
Yes.
That's
you might have read my thing.
No, because it wasn't something I was read. It was just something that was told to me.
Oh, okay.
It's the principle of if Akavir is the dream of Jubal, then it stands to reason that Yokuda is the dream of whatever was before this dream.
Yokuda being in the west is the past. Akavir being in the east is the future. So if we were to put the dreams in a linear time frame, we got Yokuda in the past, Tamriel in the
present,
Akavir
in the future.
Yeah, and that's the idea. And I mean, I throw this link around like hotcakes, but I have an essay that I wrote on the subject about how these different continents, if they're different dreams, then it stands to reason that they are different people dreaming these dreams. And if we're going to cross from one to the other, then the dreamer of whatever dream is, the arrival, the destination of that travel, they have to reinterpret what's coming over to them, right? So, like someone coming from Akavir has to be reinterpreted by Anu because the actual real Akavir coming from Jubal or Vivek's head, I mean, however you want to interpret that, it comes over to Anu. Anu now has to go, okay, here's this idea. It did not originate from me. I don't understand this. I'm going to use...
But he will perceive it however he feels fit.
Exactly. And
because wasn't the thing like Jubal knows peace, like Jubal knows love. So in Jubal's dream, Akavir is a peaceful place. But of course, in Tamriel, or in the current setting, that is very much the opposite because there's constant warring.
So I mean, and the basically what I say in this essay is that the Akavir may be coming over, that the Saisi may be coming over with peaceful intentions, but because by the time they hit Tamriel actual rather than Tamriel as Jubal perceives it, Anu has interpreted them. So, okay.
As invaders.
Yeah, you're weird. You're doing something. I don't know what it is. It must be hostile because why would it not be? And something with snakes and, okay, you're snake people now because that's the metaphor that I've used.
That's not it at all.
I support your freedom to believe that.
Yeah, except my freedom to believe that is based on their own creation mythos, which fundamentally dismantles that argument. Granted, it is specific to them that it dismantles it, but it is specific to them and it dismantles it.
Who wrote that creation myth?
Michael Kirkbride.
No, I mean who in universe?
Someone from Akavir.
Okay, so if we are reading it in the games or
it exists out of game.
Okay, but all the lore that we see ever is from Anu's perspective. So if we're reading it from Anu's perspective,
hold on. Comes from Akavir, which is Jubal's, which only exists outside of what we could perceive as Tamriel. We as beings beyond all of this have access to this. No one on Tamriel knows this.
So you are saying that this document is written from Jubal's perspective?
Yes, because of a few specific things. The biggest ones being that they achieve imago. They achieve the idealized vision of their parent, Anu, right? And two, they reach this metaphor by crossing the star line, by crossing back to the source place, by crossing back to where the first serpents are, by going back to Tamriel. They then take the information they gain, go back, perfect it, idealize it, and then wear it.
And then
And they call it transcendence.
is that how Anu would interpret it?
The knowledge that Anu would reinterpret it comes completely from your idea of how it would be perceived.
Okay,
What I'm saying is, it is Anu's metaphor, taken from Anu, and then perfected by Jubal. It is a metaphor of Anu that Anu would understand because it is literally from Anu.
Okay, guys. Trans-amaranthine mythopoesis is deep lore.
We weren't deep lore 10 minutes ago when
I
was no. We weren't deep lore 10 minutes ago when I wasn't arguing about this. We were already deep lore, Michael.
No,
don't pull the this is deep lore argument right now.
Todd, you're the expert on the Sayesi. Anything you say about Sayesi is deep lore. Come on.
Then you aren't allowed. Hold on. Then you aren't allowed to talk Khajiit, Michael.
I thought it was pronounced Seishi.
It's always pronounced wrong. It's a joke.
It's always wrong.
Yeah,
It's pronounced Smeetsy.
Because I meant to bring this up probably about 10 minutes ago before we got wildly way deeper into it, may I present my concept for what exactly the Seishi actually look like?
I promise not to yell.
Okay.
Promise, Todd.
I will accept your promise. Thank you. So, the first thing to start here with my concept is that at one point the Seishi were indeed effectively beast folk, same as Lamia, Argonians, Khajiit, creatures that they are sentient, they are intelligent, they know what they're doing, but they are neither men nor mer, they are beast folk. Eventually, they conquered the men of Akavir, just the Akaviri, and at some point, after taking over and becoming the ruling class over the men of Akavir, they began to look more like the men of Akavir. The concept of the Seishi swallowed the men of Akavir more in the metaphorical sense that they became more like the men of Akavir because they were slowly absorbing the Akaviri culture into their own and slowly putting their own culture into the Akaviri style.
If I may, if you're done.
Yeah, pretty much.
Don't be a dick.
I'm not going to.
No,
I posted something in the group chat.
You just were.
Well, yeah, that was to you.
No. Are you done? That's selfish.
I don't think so. He was just asking if I was finished.
If he wasn't finished, I was going to let him finish. Stop gaslighting, Andrew. I posted something in the group chat here in Google. I don't know if you've seen it. This is the Sayasi creation myth. One of the few places to find it is the Imperial Library. And as I know very well, the search function in the Imperial Library is a piece of shit. Like that's just a fact. I'm sorry. The search function in that thing is terrible.
Oh, I'm well aware. I've tried searching things on Imperial Library before, and it's... Hoo boy. It gets fun.
The name of this is And We Ate It to Become It. The Sayasi creation myth, And We Ate It to Become It, right?
Okay.
This final paragraph here explains that all this other bullshit they were doing, right? They named this final mastery of theirs Transcendence. Or Sancience. Let me look. Sancience. And then they eat it to become it. And then there is no more variation.
I'm just going to go ahead and leave that out of my shopping cart.
I'm just going to ignore you.
Anywho.
From this, we also get a few other things. I'm going to sit here and look to see which one. Here it is. And I know the Anuad simplifies things, and I literally just said that. But from the point of the Anuad, we get the notion of the men of Akavir, right?
Mhm.
What this myth, when taken in conjunction with this, would give us, and then given the mysterious Akavir, and the Sayasi eat all the men of Akavir, it's not that they ate all the men of Akavir, it's that the men of Akavir eat Sancients to become the Sayasi.
Okay. An expanded thing on the concept of that Seishi and Akaviri effectively become the same. Just as a little bit of flavor, I always figured the concept of the people, they all end up looking mannish to some degree, but the ones who still had scales, the ones who still retain snake-like qualities, were effectively the top of the cast.
I have my own weird thoughts on that, but that's just not for right now.
Okay, that's perfectly
We're not going
fine.
to talk about your Sayasi porn?
No, we are never bringing that up again. Shut up, Lauren. Now, if we're all done with all the deep lore arguments and whatnot, whenever Solstice gets back, she had some questions about soul gems. And we've just been kind of ignoring those for about 20 minutes while we dipped into all this other stuff.
I was gonna move on to that anyway.
I am terribly sorry.
It's all right.
I didn't mean
nothing to be sorry about.
Things.
So, I mean, this is like, test lore is like, let me put it this way. I had a professor say to me, you don't know anything until you know everything. And that's what test lore is like. You don't know anything until you know everything. And that means that there is a lot of confusion and cross-referencing and just shenanigans. And then it all starts to fit together. So no worries, man. That's what it's like.
Does anyone else want some cookies? I got some cookies.
Yes, please. I have some more Twizzlers. I'll trade you.
Sweet.
They're like rock hard. I apologize. So you had some questions about soul gems.
How does a soul gem work?
So the soul gem, like, where do the soul gems come from? I always figured they were grown and there were mines.
I think they might have something to do with Ethereum. The only reason I say that is just because there are mining nodes in Blackreach that give you soul gems.
Yeah. So because I'm pretty sure that soul gems, because if in Morrowind we see how the gems can grow. If you do the Telvanni quest line and you build your house, you have to get a grand soul gem. You fill it with the soul of a storm atronach, and then you got to give it to the lady, and then she like plants it in Uvirith's grave. And over time, like over 3 days, hey, you got this big crystal, and there's like a plant coming out of it. And then give it another 3 days, and now there's a single pod. And then the more time passes, the bigger it grows. And so you can see, like in the basement of your house, there are these big glowing blue crystals, and they kind of hum a little bit. And so I figured that was basically magically induced crystal growing. Yeah, and so if it can be magically induced, well, it can probably be done naturally too. Because like if you get like the crystal growing kits from like Smithsonian or whatever, I'm talking about, you get them from like
I know what you're talking
kids
about.
or whatever. Yeah, just the crystal growing sets. So if we can do that, those crystals are already available naturally. Like, so there are probably mines somewhere digging up soul gems, and I'd like to see one of those mines. And
well, best I could say is effectively just Blackreach. There are plenty of mining nodes that literally all they give is soul gems.
I mean that gives further credence to the idea. Another is, I guess they could be created probably through some ritual or something.
The only soul gems I know that get created through a ritual is literally just black soul gems.
So mining is kind of the best answer that I've got for that. And so there's probably like soul gem mining towns somewhere.
So my internet was cutting out as he was saying something about Ethereum. What was that concept?
It was me bringing up the concept of what exactly soul gems could be made out of. And my thought was they could be made out of Ethereum.
Yeah, they just seem reminiscent, then I see.
Yeah.
One minor thing, and this is really just a minor thing. ESO, along the main quest line and just in Cold Harbor in general, you see tons of carts that look like mining carts of somebody just mining out soul gems.
Yeah.
And granted, this is just an ESO thing, but I would argue those are black soul gems just because they originate in Cold Harbor, but we don't really know.
There could also be the potential that
those ones. I know what you're talking about, Todd, and not to cut you off your check.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, there's piles and piles of these soul gems, and they are really dark. I would imagine that has to do with the amount of killing that the worm cult is doing in service to Moloch Ball. And that they're, that just these souls there's so many of them that they just like leave piles around. It's like, yeah, we'll get to these later.
Then there's also the fact that by that point in time, they aren't really using soul gem for enchantment. They're using rune stones still, and soul gems are just associated with necromancy.
Yeah, well, even then, like at that point, soul gems are the equivalent of a magical battery.
Yeah. Yeah,
like that's all they really get used for. You're not really using the soul gem to enchant something. You enchant something with a rune, and then when the enchantment runs out, you just use a soul gem to recharge it.
That's how the Dwemer did it. So
it's interesting that soul gems seem to adapt themselves to the soul within them.
I mean, are you referring to like ESO? Because in ESO they have just the one base soul gem.
Well, I hadn't thought about that, but that's an interesting point. What I was referring to was there is a note somewhere in Cold Harbor written by Manamarco, and he's talking about how he's just spending hours and hours measuring soul gems and making sure they're perfect before he sends them on to be used by Moloch Ball and the Daedra. And he finds the one, and it's obviously the vestiges, and he notes that like, I measured it one day, and then I came back, and I've got my super accurate measurements, and it's bigger, and it keeps growing. And he decides to set that one aside.
All right, I'm pulling up Manamarco's books. I'll try and tell you which one that is.
Go for it. I have found it twice, and that was like 8 months apart, and it was largely by accident both times. But my whole point with that is that regardless of, I realize the vestige is a special case, but that property has to be inherent in the soul gem for the soul gem to grow.
Because I mean, in Morrowind, and I'm not sure about previous games.
All right, I found it. It's on Soul Shriven Volume 3. 3's battle on how the gem came to be, but I suspect its owner was involved.
Yeah, I'll read that here in a second. But in Morrowind, there are a bunch of different sizes of soul gems, starting with petty, which looks like a little thing of chalk almost. Little white cylinder. And then there's, I think, lesser, common, greater,
grand and black.
It's minor, petty, lesser, common, greater, grand, divine, apparently, at one point, and then black.
Where was it? Divine.
Divine is specific
to Azura Star.
Yeah, Azura Star is the divine one, and specifically things that would qualify as divine souls are like Vivek, Dagoth,
which
Almalexia.
Dagoth, I don't think has a soul.
Well, I think the problem is you can't properly kill him in game.
Yeah, that's true. Because you kill that first form, it's basically a projection.
I mean, you can kill and soul trap the aspects of her scene.
Oh yeah, you can.
That sounds awesome.
I'm just going to kill and steal the soul of a literal Daedric lord and go and enchant a spear with it because fuck you.
No,
you can do that with Manamarco in Oblivion too.
True.
Oh yeah,
that is true.
Which is just really fun.
There's also the concept that the Manamarco we meet in Oblivion is from the timeline where Manamarco didn't become a god. And he was still just a lich.
Yeah, well, because remember, like the Miracle of Peace, the Warp in the West, whatever you want.
They all happened.
They all happened. So
they all happened. So that means there's at least one Mannimarco who became a god, but then there's probably a good 6 others who didn't.
Yeah, and maybe they fucked off. One, opened a butcher shop somewhere. And
I don't think it's a case of they all like fucked off. I think it's more of a case of like you had one who became a god, so that one just went and became a god. But then the other 6 effectively all had the same thing happen to them, so they were just squished together.
Although that would be cool to.
You're just walking around and you see a bunch of. You're just walking around, you find a library, and just the librarian is named Mannimarco.
Yeah, well, Manny for sure.
Manny, yeah.
Librarian.
My understanding of it was always that the Mannimarco you kill in Oblivion is the mortal avatar of the god.
Regardless,
just as Wolf is
What about
the
Marco,
avatar
though? We had a
Morrowind.
What about Mannimarco?
Yeah, Lauren, what?
Sorry, my Wi-Fi's being dumb. I was just gonna make a joke about we have to have a Marco though. What would Marco do?
Horse stable. Actually, no, not horse stable. Pig farming.
Gravedigger.
He raises beautiful Sigic pigs on Alinor.
I don't know that he'd be caught dead touching anything Sigic.
Priest of RK.
I feel like Mannimarco would be particularly bitter. Like, he seems like a kind of guy to hold grudges. Like,
but at the same time, he's also a lich who has, strippers in his cave. So what's there really to be angry about?
Here's some blow. Yeah.
Have you seen where he lives? He lives in a cave or in Cold Harbor?
No, but then there's Daggerfall. He has a dope-ass cave castle with strippers always by his side.
Yeah, and he's doing fat lines of coke off of their butts. I don't know.
How did we get here?
Anyway, since Oblivion was my first game, and then I started playing, Skyrim. He's obviously not in it. There is like one reference to him in the cave where they try to resurrect the Black Worm cult. Yeah. I was not prepared in ESO for
him to play like a major role.
I wasn't prepared for him to put up a fight.
Oh.
I was just so surprised. I just figured he would fall over dead like he did in Oblivion.
No.
It was largely ceremonial.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
more Oblivion's a bitch.
Well, I think another thing you need to remember is that, at least in the events of ESO, Mannimarco hasn't even become a lich yet. So he kind of has he hasn't become a lich yet. So he kind of has a reason to keep fighting. Because if anything screws up his plans too much, it's all over.
He's trying to become the Lord of Rape. Like, he's trying to usurp that role from
And it royally
and when it doesn't work, he goes to war with Vanus Galarian and becomes a lich on the battlefield.
And
then wins.
Do you think? I wonder if as he becomes his revenant form, I wonder if he's ever bitter about, man, I was almost a serious god. Now I'm just this petty moon.
I wonder if he's even aware of his form.
Huh?
I wonder if he's even aware of his form when he becomes the Revenant.
He is.
I like to think it's short-lived because Thros takes his place for too long.
Well, the thing with the Revenant is, like, with regards to Manny specifically, there's a version of Where Were You When the Dragon Broke where they actually find Mannimarco, who's like, yeah, I know exactly where I was. Like every other god.
So anyway, soul gems. So we were talking about the sizes. And I always kind of figured this is how I run it in my tabletop game. Because this is what makes sense to me. Every gem is like a receptacle for soul energy. However much lunar currency. And so when you kill something that's under the effect of Soul Trap, that soul is funneled into the gem up to its capacity. So, like, here's a little bottle. You can only fit so much stuff in here. Any more soul isn't going to fit, so you can't fit that soul in there. So if you were to try and put, Winged Twilight in a petty soul, it's just not going to fit. You're trying to.
It's not going to fit, and you don't exactly have the power to just tear off a piece of the soul and put it in there.
It's
and even if you tried to tear off a piece of the soul, that could also lead to other problems, like suddenly that soul gem becoming inert.
Yeah. So, so you need a soul gem that is at least of the size of the soul or bigger, in order to appropriately capture it. And as far as I understand, the entirety of the soul is contained within the gem. So that means the AE, the animus, and I guess those are the two main parts. And then the AE is split into memory and personality. Am I right? Hold on.
Well, while you try to figure that out, may I interject something? Nothing like mean or nothing, but I just have the funniest thought in my head right now.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So we're at the lunar market, right? And Clavicus Smile walks up holding this petty soul gem that he's just like scribbled grand on with black marker.
Can he sell it?
And he's just like
Todd Dameron.
debating with somebody else about whether or not it actually has the soul of a gold saint in it.
So there's a book about soul gems in Morrowind, and I cannot remember what it's called, but I've never heard this resolved properly, that either soul gems contain what we would call the soul of the person that's been killed, or that when a person dies, the leaving of their soul expends some kind of energy, and it's that energy that's trapped.
I have actually heard something about this. From what I've heard, the concept is this. Only black soul gems can actually trap a soul. Like the literal soul. White soul gems... Yeah, white soul gems are only able to capture the energy leaving the body.
Just as a fun point to point out, the part of the soul that would be considered the energy is the animus. Like we see this kind of demonstrably in action with Clockwork City's opening quests, where the shadows are coming off the mages' bodies and they lose like so much magical energy because that's their literal animus.
Oh yeah, we also see that in Cold Harbor when like Vanis Galarian screws up royally, gets caught, and they tear away his magicka stamina and health. And
they don't tear it away. He rips it apart so they can't use it immediately.
Oh, right.
Well, so so I think the AE can be split into memory and then like sense of self. But the animus is the energy source. The source of animation in a living thing. And I think that's what powers like Dwemer automatons. Is the animus.
It's the AA batteries in your Energizer Bunny.
Yeah,
it is fantastic things.
And so I mean, I personally, and feel free to disagree. There's no wrong answer here. I think that the soul gems, even below black, they do contain the entire soul, but not the entire soul is used in enchanting or recharging or whatever you use a soul for.
And that could actually explain as to why you really only see like human souls
in the
soul cairn, and you don't just see like a shit ton of frogs hopping around.
Yeah, well, my main reason for this is in the story of Wolf Queen Potema, who in part is given her name as the Wolf Queen because of an amulet she was given when she was young that was enchanted with the soul of a werewolf. And it's implied that part of the personality of that werewolf is still in the amulet, and that it infected or somehow imprinted itself upon Potema herself.
It's undying rage, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And so if part of that personality is in the enchanted item, that implies it must have been in the soul gem. And I mean, I guess to capture a werewolf, you'd need a black soul gem, because a werewolf is a person. Maybe, I don't know. But that's kind of the inclination I have.
Well, my biggest thing is we're mostly talking humanoid here, but what's the difference between the humanoid and not, like with their souls? Of course, they're not going to have as many parts to it because they're simpler. functioning. But like even if you go look at UESP's Facebook, they posted something about like the Fulmer, you know, being lesser because they don't go to black soul gems. Like what creates that line? Why are the Fulmer? I know they've devolved, but what's that innate difference?
Which I think initially, and see, this is I think there's some inconsistency here, but on one hand, you got Vanis Galarian, who in his attempt to outlaw necromancy and having dealt with Man in Marco, we're gonna determine that souls are either white or black. The black ones you don't touch, the white ones feel free to use. You got a horse over there, soul trap it, kill it. I don't give a fuck. But my buddy Ted, you leave him alone because he's my buddy and he's a person, and you're not gonna touch him. But then I've also heard something about RK upholding that. So I don't know if maybe Vanis Galarian made a pact with RK or something to join those two. Because we do hear about the Falmer going from black to white souls because the Dwemer were assholes. And they betrayed the Falmer. And that's why we call, the little goblin-y looking ones, we call those the betrayed.
Well, I just wonder though, because they're still humanoid. Like I know they've devolved. It makes me wonder at what point. I don't know if it was just a gameplay thing or.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd say devolved. I think their ideology changed, and so that changed. I mean, because they lost their eyesight.
Right, let's just say they evolved in a different direction.
Yeah, I mean it's really.
You don't think they devolved?
I think evolution is.
I feel like devolved is still the wrong word to use here. I think mutated is the better word.
Yeah,
as the former Falmer lady, it's probably like different evolutionary thing.
Also,
I don't know. Like you see the ruins of what they were like at their peak, and then you go into half the caves in Skyrim, and they're in there, and they're just made out of bug parts. Like there's a huge devolvement of architecture and culture.
Yeah, which I mean, I'm probably being overly analytical of the word evolution, because when I think evolution in this context, I think of Charles Darwin, Herbert Spencer, proper evolutionary theory.
Yeah, meanwhile, this seems a lot more like just genetic mutation that was forced and then just gets carried on.
I don't know that evolution is a thing in the dream, because that's a biological function. It's
more of an adaptation.
You see it though with like the resistances to like different races to their landscapes.
Which I think that has to do with the towers reflecting the race that controls it. But
what towers the Argonians have for their resistance to poisons and shit?
Some random Zondor.
What?
It's not even of actual significance. Just one random tiny Zondor just sitting somewhere in Black Marsh. We don't actually know where it is.
Are you talking about Zanmir?
Yeah, sorry.
I like the way he said it.
No, sorry. I was saying Zolnor because I guess my brain started thinking of Zolnor the Slaver.
So I see who?
Yep, it is now Zolnor.
I'm pretty sure that the Hist are the tower, aren't they?
The Hist aren't a tower.
They're aliens.
Regardless,
that's what I was gonna say.
The towers seem to be functioning alongside the lines of what we would call evolution in our world.
Yeah, but I don't think the tower shapes the individual though.
No, but
it does not shape the people. It's just
I think
because the people control it, it shapes the land.
Yeah, that's and I mean,
this
is kind of shaky, but
oh crap, was it
Talos used white gold to reshape Cyrodiil from a jungle into fertile.
No. Here's the thing, because of course in ESO Cyrodiil is still plains.
Yeah,
and I think it was Lady Cinnabar who brought up the concept that the reason it is plains and not a jungle like older texts describe it is because when the Alessians, the Cyrodiils, took over, it changed to accommodate them because the aliens were no longer ruling it.
I mean, it has to do with Talos, because Talos says, I breathe.
I do this for you, Red Legions.
I do this for you, Red Legions.
But then there's also the issue of, this is now set a time before Talos ever existed in the first place. and you have scholars there trying to explain why this is.
Yeah, which I mean, and my prior to right now, my common answer would have been, well, Kim is retroactive. And so
I do actually like Lady Cinnabar's answer of because the Cyrodiils took over, well, Cyrodiil, their control of white gold shaped it to be a much more temperate climate.
I mean, why not both?
I mean,
because what actually happened was when the Marikati Selectives tore apart Akatosh and shoved bits of Shazar in him, the shoving of Shazar in him and made him part of Talos. So whenever Talos chimed it all away, Akatosh chimed it all away at that point, because they're literally the same god.
Oh, okay. I like that.
I've got some issues with that Lady Cinnabar lady. Some of her writing's just not correct.
Would you say it's off color?
No, I would not. My biggest issue is that she says my biggest issue with her is that she says the Khajiit as an entire culture charged Namira with taking care of the souls of the dead.
They do.
Okay.
Oh, and here comes the whole the good ones.
Yeah, but that's not the entire one. That's not the entire culture, which is what her writing implies.
Well,
I'll be back in a little bit.
But when have humans ever understood
one's
proper
always
Khajiit?
difficulty trying to understand Khajiit.
Khajiit are just liars. There's no point in understanding them. They're just liars.
Hey Todd, guess what? Sayesi are actually just anime tropes. They don't even really exist. Have a nice day.
Have you actually seen some of the shit I write?
Okay, so
have you seen? Oh, hold on. No. You have seen this, Michael. How do I explain anything to anyone when it comes to Sayesi if I'm being serious?
So did that answer questions about the soul gems?
Sure. Yep.
Pretty solid explanation.
Several solid explanations.
Groovy.
Take your pick.
What other stuff do we want to tack down? I mean, easy, hard, simple, mundane, metaphysical, whatever. Lay it on us. And between, Todd, Michael, and I, Mac knows some good stuff. I can tell Chuck knows his stuff too. So
I know some things.
I don't even consider you new anymore, Mac.
Aw, I'll take that as a compliment.
Well, good. You're supposed to.
I still call myself the lore kitten, though. I'm not quite a cat yet.
Well, what is it? Socrates said, "True wisdom is in knowing that you know nothing."
Dude, that's us.
I know. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, none of us know a fucking thing. If you listen to us on the selectives, we'll openly admit we don't know what we're talking about.
You did put up a valiant effort when you were leading the Argonian one, though. That is a hard one to lead.
That was. It was only because I played Murkmire. I wish I knew more about the Argonians, but up until
we really didn't have anything before that, though, did we? Of substantial, the way we did about Nords or Altmer or
or Dunmer.
Well, Dunmer.
As a running joke, every cast is a Dunmer cast because we always bring in the Dunmer at some point.
Well, their histories obviously interject.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Rather forcefully.
And Chris Nelson, Rotten Deadite, is the Dunmer guy.
Yeah.
If there is a Dunmer guy, it's
he needs to finish the New Whirling School.
Yeah.
He's been slacking off for 2 years. Has it been 2 years or is it longer? I think it's been longer.
While we're on the Dunmer, I have a question for Andrew and Michael because I've heard Todd's opinion on this. Do you think that one of the reasons the Dunmer are so popular and we have so much information on them is because of Test 3 Morrowind?
Because Morrowind was the best. Yes.
Yeah.
Morrowind is undoudedly the best.
Yeah.
I disagree, but whatever. My point, where I'm going with that is, if Test 3 had been Hammerfell or something, would we have, would the situation, would the alternate timeline be that every cast is a Redguard cast.
Now, are Michael Kirkbride and Kurt Coleman working on it?
That's the question.
Now, also, here's the other thing. I would like to also point out, Daggerfall has a shit ton of Redguard lore. Like, my god, it has so much that it's basically a complete lore of the entire race. So if you had that third game, it will have expanded it even further beyond.
What I mean by that is like Test 3 is where people really started latching on in mass to the game series.
Yeah.
And the Dumber just, I mean, there's so much about it, and a lot of it's cool, a lot of it's gross, like with the mushrooms and insects and crap.
Yeah, it's because like
insects are important. That's what really attracted me to the game series as a whole.
Their taxi service is a giant flea.
Yes,
I will not
exactly.
have it.
Yeah, and they give me the same low price.
If
They give you the same low price every time.
generic fantasy land, I would not have latched on to the Elder Scrolls like I did. It's
Yeah,
just that
it's honestly it is.
itself.
Yeah,
that right there, what Solstice said was the point. Morrowind was unique, and that's what drew people in.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, fucking Oblivion and Skyrim seem like bog standard fantasy games.
Bingo.
Oblivion. Behold, generic high fantasy loader.
Yeah,
Skyrim.
And that's
Look,
why I don't play
it's
Oblivion.
Game of Thrones again.
Yeah.
You know, the good news is...
Hold. I'm just going to ask this one since I just said it. Genuine question. Did Game of Thrones rip off the Draugr for the White Walkers, or did Skyrim rip off the White Walkers for their Draugr? Because we had Draugr and Morrowind.
Trope that both pulled from.
There's also the fact that Draugr is indeed just an old Norse mythology. Like that's literally all it is.
Well, we had cooler Draugr in Blood Moon.
The first, A Song of Ice and Fire, the first A Song of Ice and Fire novel, The Game of Thrones, it was published in 1996. So it predates most Elder Scrolls titles. I think isn't that the
However, when did the White Walkers appear in A Song of Ice and Fire?
In the very first chapter.
No. When did we have visual representation?
Yeah.
That's my question. When was the visual representation?
The very first episode of the first season, whenever that came out.
That's the thing. If you rewatch that scene, you never see the Walker clearly.
Not clearly, but you do see her. You see her face.
No, you don't. You don't see the face. You don't see it clearly. You just see this thing like completely out of focus on the camera.
No, that's just dramatic cinematography. Because we're not supposed to know. It gives them more mystery and therefore makes them more threatening. So,
and then you'd read the books.
It's the same reason you never see Master Chief's face in Halo. Like it's
my point is that like what is it, the start of season 3 or the end of season 2 or something like that? You know, after Skyrim's been out for a year or so, we see this just like a mass Draugr army with Stalrim weapons commanding a legion of the dead, and I'm just like, am I in Skyrim or is this Game of Thrones? I'm very confused right now.
I think what we should always remember is that no matter what, there's only one race in the Elder Scrolls that's Game of Thrones, and it's just because the Bretons are cosplaying Game of Thrones consistently.
Yep.
And I'm not. I wish I was wrong.
Yeah, they do play the Game of Thrones pretty handy.
Actually, no. There's another race that does it, and I don't think you guys will be happy when I tell you which one it is.
Altmer?
Goblins.
The Imperials.
Nice. Bretons and goblins.
Goblins have so much weird.
Goblins?
Goblins have so much weird
I
political strife going on among all their tribes.
Yeah, and it's so simplistic too, which is
it's so simplistic, but it is so numerous.
Yeah. I want more of that. Oh, steal the goblin totem and then put it in another goblin inside out. I just watch them fight. Like, I want more of that because that was simply magical.
Andrew, you reminded me. Have you gotten George Martin's new new book on Westeros?
No, I have not.
It's like a 1,000-page history of the Targaryen conquest and the subsequent heirs. It is a hefty book, and it's just delightful.
I really need to go back through and reread the series. I've watched.
You don't have to read the series to read this. This is what happened.
I know, but I feel honor bound to reread the series before I get back into any more. Are you talking about Ice and Fire? I've seen the show a few times.
He has admitted that the reason Winds of Winter is taking so long is because he was doing this instead.
Oh, can I ask you guys a question?
What a dick.
What is the general consensus on the idea that Aldmeris never existed, but is rather just a subconscious concept of when the Mer used to be gods?
Correct.
I don't think it's a continent.
It literally never existed.
Yeah.
No, idea.
It's when
I wasn't really asking whether this was correct or incorrect because I already agree with it. I was more asking like, what does everyone think about that idea?
Yeah, that's anyone.
It makes sense for Atmora to exist and Aldmeris to not.
Anyone who understands.
Actually, I think Atmora used to be called Altmora.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and for a while, I used to conflate that with Atmora too. That Atmora is the metaphor that men use to describe the dawn, whereas Aldmeris is the metaphor that the Altmer and other Mer use to describe the dawn.
But from what I know in relation to elves and Atmora, at one point its name was Altmora, just meaning the old forest.
No.
But
said, did you say alt or ald?
I think I said alt.
Mora.
Because
it is also known as Aldmora, the first forest.
Yeah, but the whole concept being that I want to say one of the concepts was that during the war between Ariel and Lorcan, the wandering Elnafe drove the Eld Elnafe out of Altmora. And thus they took it over, and it eventually became Atmora.
The version I'd heard is that the wandering Elnafe encountered the fortified old Elnafe, and they were like, "Yo, what up?" And the old Elnafe told them to fuck off.
Piss off.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a few different recountings with Atmora in particular. Aldmeris, in the easiest way of saying it, is Aldmeris is when you remember yesterday, but yesterday was fucking perfect, and God, you wish it was yesterday because today fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Atmora, Atmora
it is rose-tinted glasses personified.
Atmora is similar, however, Atmora is actually there, and it's the reminder to men that, hey, you might win this time because you won here, so go win over there. And then the horrible fighting starts again. I will have the last slice of pizza, you fucking cat-faced son of a bitch.
And Todd, you also
talking to your all fakes that way.
Being frozen, right?
No, I was talking to Michael, but what about Atmora being frozen?
You've made the point about it being like memory solidified ice, like men do not forget this kind of thing.
Well, it has to do with time too. Time being frozen. Well, it's literally frozen.
It's outside of time, and it also goes into south is actually west and north is actually east, which you're gonna have to give me a minute if you want me to source that, because I have to actually dig through a bunch of old messages. But I'll
take your word for it.
And even then, there's in Canarthy's Roost in ESO, you call upon the three winds to unbind Stormrazor. There's the nor'easter wind, the sou'wester wind, and the central wind. There you have, again, your south is west, north is east concept.
And then the center is just the center.
What's the significance of east in in Elder Scrolls again?
North
future,
is east is future.
What?
North is east is future.
That's right, east is future, yeah.
Yeah, because think of it. I mean, and that comes from real world symbolism too. The sun rises in the east. And so, a new day, the future. Whereas, the day past, the sun sets. That's in the west. And as far as I can tell, that seems to be how the sun rises and sets in Tamriel as well. Sun rises in the east, sets in the west.
While it's quiet, Michael, I have a question for you. He's still there.
Yeah. What's up?
A while back, you posted in the Facebook group about like all these questions you wanted about the Khajiit and elsewhere and all that. What was that for?
Spoilers. No, I can't tell you.
Okay.
It's mod stuff.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
What mod, Michael?
Beyond Skyrim elsewhere.
Ooh, rad.
Do you guys not know about this?
Yeah, he's the head writer.
I don't think
I don't know you, so it stands to reason I don't.
Hi, I'm new.
Behold, Scourgicus, one of the, what is it now, like 3 elsewhere directors and head of the writing department.
He goes by preacher later.
Okay, so on Reddit you might know me as Scourgicus. On PSN and everywhere else, I'm Moonsugar Leader, and I'm in Beyond Skyrim is a huge mod project which is making the rest of Tamriel, and I am on the team that does Elsewhere, the Land of the Khajiit, and I am the head of the writing department and one of the co-directors.
And the Bruma team still hasn't released high quality textures.
I have no idea. I don't know anything about them.
Yeah,
and it's going to be ready next week, right?
It's ready now.
I wish.
Let's see here. Elsewhere has this problem with this dude who was writing the pre-release, and they've had a lot of fights with him because he's a fucking prick. More on that another time.
Who's the prick?
The person who's writing the fucking city that's supposed to be the pre-release for Beyond Skyrim Elsewhere. He's a fucking
Todd's
prick.
talking about himself.
Okay.
I am a fucking prick.
What?
I mean, I gathered that already, but.
and Michael,
have y'all played the Bruma?
I started. Yeah.
I have played Bruma. Yes.
Did you go to the Namira Shrine?
No, I did not.
The Namira Shrine. Pretty
have you seen it? You've seen it in Oblivion, right?
I got killed there.
Yeah.
Go. It's just a statue like all the other ones. Go to it, and it's in about the same spot. Go to it in the Beyond Skyrim Bruma thing. They like remade it, and it's not just a statue anymore. It is a fantastic like idea, and I want them to do the same.
Is it like it looks like she's like climbing out of the rock?
Yeah, exactly. She looks like fucking Shelob, which is my whole thing with Namira.
All right. So I have a question for you guys.
Just before you do, I did find that link about north is east, and by that extension, south is west. I threw it up here in the little hangout chat.
Oh, I see it.
Nice.
I knew I remembered to bookmark that somewhere. Continue. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's totally fine. All right, so obviously this year, Somerset came out. We got to see the beautiful lands of Alinor. Personally, I think it's amazing. We got to see a lot of new creatures, especially new fantastical creatures that have now been added to the lore, such as griffins and indrix. I want to ask everyone, what do you guys think of the sea slodes?
Andrew.
Oh my god.
Okay, hold on.
Oh no, are you the one who wrote Sloda?
Andrew, before you do,
oh no.
Before you do, I have one thing to interject here.
Sure.
I despise you for asking this question.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I hate the slode. And I hate the slode. Now, okay, you go, Andrew.
My favorite. Yes, I'm the one who wrote Sloda.
God damn it, I've heard stories of you.
Yes, that is my baby. Honestly,
It is beautiful.
Honestly, it is my second greatest achievement in the lore community. The first being the slowed creation myth, which I think is much more poignant. But anyway, so the sea slowed, which come from Ulvorkus, I like to think they are. Shut up.
That wasn't what it was about. I'll reference it later.
I like to think that they are. I mean, that they're a separate breed of slowed, obviously.
Yeah.
And I have this kind of weird headcanon I've been playing with that they actually they're a primarily female society, and the reason that is because they mate the way hagfish do. In that, is it hagfish or anglerfish? I don't remember.
I think last time you said it was angler.
Yeah.
Are you about to say male latches on for all eternity?
Yeah, male latches on.
Yeah, that's anglerfish.
Slowly absorbed by the female while the
that's anglerfish.
intact, and that's how they procreate.
And
That is indeed anglerfish, yes.
And if you're wondering why it's disgusting, it's because it's the slode. And this is why I despise you for asking this question, Chuck.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're slug toads.
See, I have thoughts about like space slode too, like what they would do in space. And I like to think they'd have like salt lock pistols. So instead of flintlock, they just have little bits of salt, and they put their own children inside the pistol and they fire it with the salt. And we know that's a thing because Cyrus the Restless used a slode torpedo by dumping salt onto a slode, and he killed a battle spire with it, and it crashed into Masser.
Oh god damn it!
Oh, that was so funny! Like it farted all the way out too. It was great. Just.
Andrew, what I was laughing at was your latest piece with Nagasta, where he's hypothesizing what the human in front of him is feeling. It's like, I think it's reverence, or maybe it's sexual arousal, but
I'm not really clear what the difference is.
He has no idea what the emotions are.
That piece, that was my attempt to explain Hackdirt, because it was just this weird, like, out of place Lovecraft reference.
So you think like it was probably a slode or something that could have been
because the Bible of the Deep Ones is actually Nagasta Kavata Kavakis.
Oh god!
But in Daedric script.
That's
instead of in normal English. And so I thought, okay, well, it's that book, so it must be a slode, I guess. So I thought, okay,
or a necromancer.
Yeah, so I thought when Nagasta was done in Stros Makai during Redguard, he fucked around for a little bit, and then he ended up in Hackdirt, and he like burrowed underneath, and some kid found him, and so he was like, yeah, I'm one of the deep. Ooh. And he's like, oh, it's a god I can worship. And so
to be fair, if it's a sea slode, that he can absolutely just casually say, I'm one of the deep, because he is from deep down.
Yeah. Which the sea slode weren't a thing when I wrote that, because I wrote that maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah, but it's all coming together.
Wasn't that long ago? I don't know. But the sea slode are very different. Especially in like their physiology.
Yeah, they're gigantic feet.
Yeah, they got these frog legs that probably.
That makes sense if they do indeed live underwater, because it's effectively legs that can help them swim.
Yeah, and
help swim their fat bodies.
Yeah, I like to think, and I mean this is wishful thinking. This is wishful thinking on my part entirely. I like to think that they created the sea slode just so that they didn't step on Sloda.
Oh god! All right.
I mean,
because of this, because I've now found out that you're the one who wrote Sloda.
Yeah.
This now brings up another question.
Mm-hmm.
In the unofficial Elder Scrolls RPG 3rd edition,
mm-hmm.
there is a player's handbook, which adds alternate races you can play, and of course talents for all the races.
Mm-hmm.
Within those talents is the talents for the slode race, if your player happens to be playing a slode. The second talent is called Meticulous Planning, and the flavor text for it is, the slode have no word for adventure. The closest equivalent term translates to tragic disaster. First, is that true? And second, is this your fault?
No, this is not my fault. That sounds like it predates my stuff.
If I may, Andrew.
Yeah.
If memory serves, I believe that is directly related to Pocket Guide to the Empire 3rd edition, Other Lands, Thras.
Yeah, I feel like I've read that before.
Yeah.
Yes, that may be from a Pocket Guide. No, I mean there is a tabletop version of Elder Scrolls that I wrote that I have hosted on the Telmora. But I mean that's kind of my own thing. There's another guy, I'm pretty sure it was Andrew Shamu. I'm pretty sure he did some tabletop stuff. Shamu, yeah.
Oh,
like the orca?
Oh.
That's a whale of a tail.
That's his last name. Yeah. He's an interesting fellow. He hates me with a passion, but I'm the new slode guy, so he can be mad. He used to be the slode guy, I guess.
If I may interject again, I actually did find that it was first edition, the Wild Regions, because that came with Redguard and of course had more info on the Slowed than normal.
Yeah, because the Slowed actually showed up in the damn game.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. No, I'm very much into the Slowed.
I'm trying to remember who said it, but someone had brought up that Redguard is both the greatest and the worst Elder Scrolls game. It's the greatest because it has the best story, but it's the worst because it runs god awful.
Yeah, I've got it installed on my machine here. I had that. Kirkbride's wife actually showed me how to do it.
Oh my god!
Because I had to download it from like GOG, and I had to go through all this bullshit to do it. But she was like, "Yeah, do this and this and this," and that woman's a godsend.
Andrew, were you the one who wrote that piece on the Slowed about like the human who got to watch two Slowed mate?
No, I did not. No. I did.
Our emotion scholars tell us this is a sentence filled with great emotion.
Yeah, no,
Conveys many feelings.
Oh god! Okay.
That was a guy who went by the name Rusty Shackelford. And I messaged
It's like two couches with pegs.
Yeah. It's like two inflated bladders trying to fuck each other with tent pegs.
Yes.
And,
our emotion scholars.
Wait a minute, I remember this. Yeah.
As a tangent on the concept of love. So I was in Murkmire earlier, and there was an Argonian man talking to an Argonian woman, and he's flirting with her.
Oh yeah.
And he says, "Your eyes are as beautiful as the muddy puddles found deep in the swamp." And then follow that up with, "Your voice is as luxurious as the croaking of the hamuna."
Yeah.
And he just ends it all off with.
I hear him every time I leave.
He just ends it all off with saying, "If we were to mate, we would create eggs that were the envy and awe of all."
And she's totally down.
She's totally down for it, by the way.
I'm trying to find, because this is like some of my first messages that I had in Reddit. Let me see if I can find it here.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for. Here we go. Rusty Shackelford.
You found the piece?
Yeah. During this act, you'll experience pleasurable sensations, perhaps as some sort of compensation for the time you have wasted doing it. It is difficult to describe in Slowed, Thracian, but warm bloods frequently give in to their base emotions and thus have words to reflect them. So I will quote the Redguard poet Zanir, who once witnessed the act. "Why, gods, why? Why would you let this exist? It was like watching two screaming, moaning cow stomachs stuffed with yogurt trying to fuck each other with tent pegs." Our emotion scholars assure me that this is a passion-filled statement which conveys many feelings.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yep.
Our
yeah, no, I
love that. It is some compensation for the time you have wasted.
The most
it's not total recompense, but it's something. Like you get something.
At least it doesn't make you violently vomit.
Well, the book itself is called "Your Mass and You: A Young Slowed Guide to the Facts of Life."
Okay, so guys, there's something I want to bring up. I don't remember who posted this, but it was someone on the Dream Sleeve who was talking about, who had brought up like how the Thalmor and ESO, while they are basically just a branch of the government, they are slowly starting to show the things of like supremacy style stuff, because there is a treasure you can loot off people that was like the Thalmor's guide to approved sexual positions or something.
Oh, that was me. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. But
yeah.
here's the
I
thing
found that and I just shit a brick.
Mac, here's the thing I was thinking about when I saw that. I just immediately thought, okay, on the one hand, it could be very limited. It could be like the Catholic Church saying you should only do missionary. On the other hand, it could be the Altmer equivalent to the Kama Sutra.
Here's where I went with it. Do any of y'all watch The Office?
The Dunmer have the Kama Sutra.
Yeah, I was about to say that the Dunmer have the Kama Sutra. It is literally called Boethius Pillow Book, and it is the only 10-pound book in all the test games.
Chuck, do you watch The Office?
No, I do not. Unfortunately,
There's a scene in that. There's a very, very uptight character, and her name is Angela. And she and her fiance at the time are discussing, the sexual positions they'll do it in. And she says, "I don't want anything fancy." And he says, "So missionary?" And she says, "I said nothing fancy." And that's kind of where I went with the Thalmor on there.
All right, listen. When we say fancy, we mean that if you can look each other in the eye, it's too fancy. All other positions are fine, though.
Isn't there also a thing? It's like the Thalmor's approved guide to kick the Khajiit or something.
I'm not sure. I don't think
There
that's
is. There is. It's a thievable item.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, it's not a Thalmor guide, but there is a guide to kick the Khajiit.
Yeah, it's like an approved guide or something.
I despise the Thalmor.
For some reason, I don't. It may not actually have anything to do with the Thalmor.
It's not. It's not a Thalmor book. It's just a book.
I don't know why I attribute it to that. You can't actually read it. It's just
okay, I found it. It. It's called Pocket Rules for Kick the Khajiit, a children's game, apparently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kicking is featured prominently and remains the only consistent feature in otherwise arbitrary collection of guidelines. It falls into the categories of children's toys, writings, and games.
Yes.
Our people have always been subjugated and mistreated in Tamriel.
Oh, it is
appreciation.
Say what, Mother? It is a terrible sadness. The tailless ones, they do not understand.
Damn.
The tailless ones don't understand that Sensei doesn't just mean the first talk. All right, so I think this was 2 or 3 years ago, but it was I think it was shortly after some of the first exotic mounts came out for ESO.
Okay,
and they had. All right, so I believe it was either shortly after some of the first exotic mounts came out for ESO, or just shortly after ESO went out of beta and into just full release. And I want to say there were people who were like complaining about the fact that there were like Sensei Panthers and Sensei Lions and Sensei Tigers in the game.
That was actually during the beta, if memory serves.
All right, it may have been during the beta. I'm terribly sorry if I got that wrong, but it was people complaining about that, saying, "What the hell? They're treating them like animals."
You cut out.
And I want to say one of the writers, one of the lore masters, or someone came in character and explained that Sensei is basically just the Ta'agra word to refer to a certain body shape.
See, if I can interject, that would have worked had they not already in Skyrim explained how saber-toothed tigers were not Khajiit because they are Rojit. They are senseless walkers.
Yeah.
Or mad walkers.
Like if you see a Sensei lion, that is not a Khajiit. Well, it's the equivalent of a monkey compared to.
It's a lot.
That's how the Khajiit see it.
Well, no, the problem with it was the way they explained it was stupid because they literally had an explanation. They just didn't understand their own lore. Yeah. Also, side point on the note of how the Altmer do the dirty. There's this fun little line from Tiber Septim's sword meeting with Cirrus the Restless. This is just this is just like the funniest shit ever. Threw it up in the thing. It starts with the "That's wonderful." Like this is what accommodate. This is what counts as Altmer flirting, as near as I can figure.
What did you say the paragraph started with?
well, I've been posting things in the chat the whole time, right? This starts at "That's wonderful thought, sir." Just read through that. That is what Altmer flirting. Okay.
You know what? Fuck you. That's beautiful flirting.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. I would breed.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I will footnote now my request. Doesn't even get in the main letter. It's a footnote.
Priming the cannon. Our sunbeam is already up. I will footnote now on my request. Your consideration for breeding with me after our triumph. Altmer flirting.
It's great.
Yeah.
See, all right. Here's the thing. I like to think of a concept of like, obviously the Altmer, they don't have a lot of children because they just have trouble conceiving. But that makes me think that while they do have like this sort of way of speaking and way of writing that they have, they are absolute animals in bed because they're just rigorously trying.
Yeah.
I don't think the Altmer want to have children very much.
Well, that's a precedent set in was it the real Baron Zaya, I think, or biography of Baron Zaya? One of the.
Well, that's Detmer.
Well, no, because it in it when Baron Zaya is being a little promiscuous, someone says to her because she's sleeping with the the barn boy or whatever.
The barn boy.
She's basically sleeping with a ton of people.
Yeah, who's
guards.
who's like a Nord, and so, like her nanny or whatever is like, oh, be careful because men are very virile and you'll get impregnated 3 times faster or something. And the implication is that elves and men have different procreation rates, which kind of makes sense based on like their life expectancies.
It's not
that are the most fertile of the Mer. Well, unless like you count the Khajiit as Mer.
Here's the thing. She doesn't say specifically that men are what'll do it. It's that she's sleeping around so much, it's going to happen. Like it's specifically because she's being so promiscuous that it's going to wind up just.
No, it has to do with the fact that it's
it's literally because she's with the Nord, she's with a Khajiit, she sleeps around with guards, she sleeps around with basically anyone.
Yeah.
Here's the quote. You ought to meet some nice elven boys, though. If you keep on keeping company with Khajiits and humans, you'll find yourself pregnant soon. So
again, consider the number here.
Well,
why can't it be
settle down?
I absolutely see what he's saying. He's saying the equivalent of like the nanny saying you should get yourself a nice Altmer boy.
Dunmer.
But also consider the fact that like if the culture itself doesn't really look very highly on sex and no one is really having it that much, it stands to reason that if she got a nice Altmer boy, she probably wouldn't have a kid for a while just because they're not going to be having sex anyway. Meanwhile, if she's just sleeping around, she's probably going to get knocked up soon because she's sleeping around. Like she's just sleeping with so many people that it's a high probability.
I like the dialogue that precedes that. Baron Zaya cocked her head to one side quizzically. They say dark elf women are pro something. Prostitutes? You mean promiscuous, although some do become prostitutes, I suppose. Elf women are promiscuous when they're young. You'll outgrow it. Perhaps you're beginning to already.
Which Baron Zaya book is that?
I think that's the real Baron Zaya.
Yeah, the real Baron Zaya.
2? 3?
I don't know. I'm
like 20 volumes of it.
It's one of them, but let's also.
All right, part 3.
But let's also remember, who wrote the real Baron Zaya? Because
it was a Breton who attended Barazaya's court who was originally hunted down in Wayrest for writing in such slanderous, vulgar actions.
Because he wrote the equivalent of fan fiction.
That Baron Zaya then actually took under her wing and protected when she moved back to Morrowind. She just kind of had him change his name.
Nice.
Like, he became her personal scribe.
Nice.
A stern Gamboge Imperial scribe.
Which kind of raises the question of how much was actually a lie if she liked it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. How much is actually a lie if she liked it? Because there's also the possibility that she liked it because she thought it was hilarious.
Then there's also the fact that
she read it and was like, "Oh fuck, let's try that."
No. Then there was the fact that it was like in Daggerfall, she actually sends you out to collect all the unpublished bits, right? And like she goes out to do all the unpublished, to have you find all the unpublished bits and kill the fucking author in Daggerfall. But then in Morrowind, he's literally living under her wing.
Isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, in Morrowind, doesn't the mages go to Morrowind make you go and kill all the Telvanni wizards?
No.
No, they don't.
Okay.
No,
you're thinking one version of the Fighters Guild in which
Fighters Guild
the Masters is in the Kamana Tong's pocket. So he sends you to either like he would send you to butcher all the heads of the Thieves Guild, or you go to the former or master of the Fighters Guild under the protection of the Thieves Guild, and then go and butcher like the current master and champion of the Fighters Guild after bribing off all the others.
Okay.
There's some art I saw.
Oh my god.
I don't know if it was for Legends or what, but it's Queen Baranzaya, like when she was young, on a bed, like a naked but wrapped up in ribbon, with like her ass in the air.
We have now found fan fiction again.
I'm trying to
Oh
find.
god, guys,
Oh,
guys.
hold on. Wait. What was the art?
It's Baranzaya, and she's like kind of face down on the bed, but her head's up, and her ass is up in the air, but she's like wrapped in ribbon. Like
No. Okay. Hold on. This is the thing. That's not Baranzaya. That is just some young red-haired Dunmer girl, allegedly. And you know this because it's literally on Cassius Kosade's bed.
Oh god. Oh my god.
This is the bad thing because I'm pretty sure I'm the one who showed you that art, so I am well aware of what it is.
I'm trying to find the image.
Uncle Cassius.
Hold on. Andrew, I'm gonna save you a lot of trouble. All right.
Yeah, I just don't know what the Google for that my wife won't be like, why are you Googling that?
Yeah, I'll just reverse Google search that because I actually do have that image.
Okay, you have it.
I've got a few here, all right? Okay. I need hold on. Can I throw us into a tangent? Can I discuss with everyone the legend of Harry Joe?
Yes.
Should I leave for this?
No. It is a short
I'm
legend.
old enough to hear this.
You're past 18. You're old enough.
It was a short-lived legend. It was just a man who was one of the people I knew from the test community, right? And this was the thing, right? I loved talking to him because I swear to God, it was either going to be one of three things whenever I opened up any message he sent me. It was either A, random video game shit, about 5% chance. B, random lore shit, about 35% chance. Or C, weird ass test porn. Like, just weird as fuck. Also, there's the, fucking...
Holy crap.
Wow, that broke the image thing.
Yeah, dude.
Jesus.
That broke the image. Hold on, let me just fucking pull up a link.
Oh,
again.
by the way, guys, so I'm going through the various children's toys contraband. One of them is Scale Model Dominion Catapult.
Yeah.
Let's just
why can't I have that?
Because that apparently broke the hell out of it. So let's just go back to what the fuck is actually the thing here. And I'm just going to curse you all, and I warn you now. No, I'm not going to share that. Never mind that. No. My eyes. Somebody give me the like miniature sun thing or something. I need to burn my eyes out of their sockets right now.
Praise the sun? Is that what we're doing?
No. Something. Fuck. Don't they have like a miniature sun somewhere in Tess? I need one.
Do you mean so first off, do you mean that weird orb in Skyrim that has no purpose?
In Blackreach, is that what you're talking about?
No, it's not in Blackreach. It's in a something, but it's just one of the random Dwemer ruins. There's just an orb floating there. You walk up to it, it just scans you, and then you
fall. Yeah, I remember that.
While we're on the subject of porn.
Yes. Go on.
In the real world, male cats have barbed penises.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh no, we aren't asking this question.
The answer is yes, and we know about maybe. I mean, I guess
we say maybe because again, the real Baranzaya might just be erotic fan fiction.
No. Here's the thing. We know that originally, yes. However, one of the devs just blatantly said, I am a dev. I do not like that. I am retconning that. Get fucked.
Nah. Guess what? We can do whatever we want with lore.
Now, see, here's the thing. Yeah, if it's all the first socks who have fur, what about the Omes? Who just look like Bosmer?
Internally, the Omes are distinctly Khajiit. Like their internal organs and stuff are distinct. So it would stand to reason that they might have minor, like, exterior things that are also distinct.
Minor barbs.
So I'm
lesser barbs.
I'm in a grocery store. And I walk down the aisle and I see here this box. Barbed penises. Yes, I will be adding that to my cart. Right next to the orcs have 8 nipples. Yeah, I'll be doing that.
Okay, while we're on this train, are you going to grab a box that says Argonians are diphallic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't see why they wouldn't be.
The weirder, the better.
So if I might, there is Todd. It was Ted Peterson, right? Was the guy who made the comment?
I don't remember if it was Peterson or someone else. I just know
it was either him or Douglas Goodall. It's on Imperial Library, and
it was one of them.
It was one of them, and they weren't the author of Real Baron Zaya, but they whoever they were, I believe they came up with the lore, and they later said, "No, that was a bad idea." And so there's only certain first stocks that have that particular thing.
I counter your point there.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I counter your point there with, of the fur stocks, literally only one is not super fucking feline. So
yeah, it's literally just the Omes who probably wouldn't.
So my counterpoint is they do too, because fuck them. What'd you say, Andrew?
I said I feel like the Omes should have even more barbed penises.
They have to compensate.
Yeah.
My personal canon is that it's the rot fur stocks that have it.
Oh, only the rot fur stocks.
I mean,
I counter your personal canon with new.
I mean, it's no surprise because you don't put out for any Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Okay, question. While we're on the subject of Khajiit, when Elder Scrolls Legends came out, we eventually got a card that was a Palmar Rot Renegade. What do you guys think of that card?
We light Elder Scrolls Legends on fire and never speak of it again. Agreed?
Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, no.
Because also remember that when Elder Scrolls Legends originally dropped the dragon in expansion, the dragons had 4 legs.
Yes.
Well, the main problem is that the entirety of Elder Scrolls Legends is literally one dude sitting around a fire with some friends and telling them stories. If I tell you about Jason and the Argonauts, that while we're sitting out camping having fucking marshmallows or whatever, like, that doesn't mean it really happened.
Okay.
Some of it might be based in truth. But
I guess what I was more wondering is, all right, what do you guys think of this being what a Palmar Rot looks like?
A what?
A Palmar Rot. Because the Palmar are described as being equivalent in size to a tiger. However, that could be that the concept of that could also extend to the concept that their height is the equivalent to how long a tiger usually is, which is usually 8 to 13 feet.
Oh, okay.
So my thought here is, what do you guys think of that being what a Palmar Rot looks like, rather than being quadrupedal?
No, they're quadrupedal.
Okay.
I just don't like that picture.
It's okay.
I mean, I'll be honest. Legends is very hit or miss art-wise, because it's just very, very... Okay, you show me this picture, and my counterpoint is... let me find it.
I mean, the art's very good. It's great art. It's just not...
Hold on. I has me a counterpoint here.
Oh, yeah. I was just looking at this.
Let me open this and
What does it say? Yeah, it says it's a Palmar Rot in USP.
Okay, hold on. That's your Palmar Rot thing from Elder Scrolls Legends. This is Jadet Oljanine of Ephrath from Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I can see the problem. It's literally just the same person.
It's literally one put on armor and is all grr, I is Khajiit, and the other one is literally, you see this armory of cat people back here? Yeah, we're gonna go fuck your face.
No, thank you.
I like Judet. That sidebar. I played Magic the Gathering. That was like my first legendary creature that I pulled out of a pack.
Okay,
and
but
I made
do
a
you
deck
think
around
he
it.
has a
It was
barbed
awesome.
penis?
Why does it matter?
Todd, remember one of the first rules, if it can be interpreted to be a penis, it probably is a penis and should be interpreted as a penis.
Okay, but there are some things in the weird Toddverse of lore that just don't need to be answered and don't need to be turned into dick jokes.
That's why Coral Tower on Thros is a giant throbbing hate boner.
Ooh.
And
I can see that. That's why Bendu Olo will destroy it.
Yeah, where was my point? If we can interpret any just giant tower-looking thing to be a dick, y'all are gonna fucking hate some of the shit that I come up with for Akavir.
No, we're not.
I mean,
a tower of blood, bones, and corpses, and you're gonna try and relate that to a dick. There's something wrong with you.
Well, the blood and bones, the blood and corpses can definitely make it associated.
Do you know why cats howl when they have sex? It's because they have barbed penises that destroys the vagina on the way out and ruins you for all the other cats.
So, question about dragons: what's the problem with dragons having 4 legs instead of just 2? And then, obviously, their 4 limbs would then therefore just be their wings.
It's just a matter of they weren't trying with the art. Like it was literally no one gave any fucks, and they were just taking whatever. So when someone said dragon and someone put 4 legs on a dragon, in spite of all the Skyrim this I'm going to be an ass for a minute. The people who
just now?
Yes, the people who more or less freaked out about the 4-legged dragons were more the Skyrim fanboys, because Skyrim dragon has 2 legs. What hell?
See, I like to think that dragons. I mean, because I play D&D too, and so dragons I feel like are a lot more complicated than what we see in Skyrim. And I think shapeshifting is one of those things that they can probably do. I mean, they're time spirits. Why wouldn't they be able to do that?
I would argue.
Well, we see Skakmat in Daggerfall. Skakmat is this big and quadrupedal.
I would argue it's not that they shapeshift; it's that they're perceived differently by different people. Hence the Tatter Medallion argument that a dragon's actual form, as an Altmer sees it, is like this mass of light and sound that is more or less analogous to a seraphim.
So I'm pretty sure we've passed the 2 hour 45 mark.
Oh, we're at like 3.
Yeah, and it cuts off at 2:45. I discovered that last week. So I'm just gonna hit stop broadcast.